2026 is here, and we are all looking to make some more money in our private lending business. We're going to break down 3 ways that you can do that right now.
Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your host from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for checking out the show. We hope you had a great holiday season. It is January 2026, and we are back on the grind. So today we are talking about increasing revenue. The first thing we're going to dive into is follow-up. I've been saying for a long time, we've been saying for a long time at HMB that we do not feel like we have a lead problem, but we do feel like we often have a conversion problem. And so we're going to be talking about both new leads and then also past clients and turning past clients into repeat clients and repeat clients into we've lent to them many, many times. You want to break down some of the recent improvements specifically related to new leads and follow-up and conversion?
Yeah, let's go through that. One thing to note that I think is important is prioritizing bottom of the funnel stuff over top of the funnel stuff. And what we mean by that is, think about what a funnel looks like. The bottom of your funnel is your clients, your repeat borrowers you have done loans for. They're the lowest hanging fruit. And there's a high likelihood if you did a loan for them before that you will be able to do a loan, not only for them in the future, but from a referral that they have in the future. So too many people concentrate on top of funnel things. When I say top of funnel things, that could be outbound calls, that can be going to meetup groups, that can be, buying leads from connected investors or Google AdWords or Facebook ads. Not that those aren't good ways to generate business. The point is would you rather, call a person that you don't have a relationship with or meet somebody at a meetup group, or potentially work with a client that has already done a loan with you and, do the math of what makes the most sense to where you want to focus your day on. Now, obviously, most lenders, even if they have a large repeat book of business, they're going to need more deal flow and lead flow than just their repeat borrowers. Chances are, right? But the point is you want to stay focused on that stuff first. And after you get through down from the bottom of the funnel, after you're done with the bottom of the funnel marketing activities, then work your way up to middle of the funnel and then to the top of funnel type of thing. And a big focus for us, I feel like kind of forever, but like it's just something that's underlooked is the follow-up side of it. Like, what are we doing on a regular basis to follow up with these clients? Are we doing stuff actively where we're picking up the phone or texting them one-off or trying to get a meeting with them again or trying to invite them to our office or try to take them out to lunch or coffee? Or are we doing, passive or reactive types of stuff where it's kind of automated, right? Like through your email database, through an automation in like Go High Level or your CRM where they're getting, texts and they're getting kind of nurture sequences throughout. We had a lot of success over the last few months through implementing Go High Level, and we've shared that on this podcast where we've clearly had when we all believed that we were following up sufficiently, we weren't, because now through Go High Level and automation tools, we're able to stay in front of not only our bottom of the funnel, but also the middle of the funnel and our top of the funnel leads and referrals just a lot more frequently and just more, not just more professionally, but just we're able to stay in front of them more than we would. We're more disciplined. Maybe that's the best way to state it. We're more disciplined in doing so, just because we've been able to put some tools and this automation in place where we're just able to communicate with so many more people on a daily basis.
Yeah, and in talking to everyone on our team, the originators especially, since we've put High Level into place in the past 6 weeks or so, something like that, it was kind of a gradual rollout, but everybody has had the same feedback that man, I'm going to close so many more deals because of this follow-up that's happening in an automated way, because the reality is following up, say you get, 5-10 leads a day, you give them a call, you shoot them an email, and yeah, maybe you'll get back to them to see what's going on in a day or two. But if you have 5 or 10 a day, then there's a good chance that you won't. And the automation is going to start doing a lot of that for you. It's going to have follow-up sequences going 3-4 days into the future on both text and email. that you probably wouldn't do on your own. It's just too manual. It's too much heavy lifting. And look, it's only been 6 weeks-ish. And the response from our team has been like, wow, like these 3 deals that we closed in December are exactly from the follow-up stuff we put in place. And that's coming from one person on our team. And already we've seen the impact. It's going to be huge.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I mean, Chris modestly said, 5 leads a day. If you're only getting 5 leads a day, like you need more leads than that today, a day. I mean, we don't really like scaring our audience with the amount of leads that we get on a daily basis, but it's dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens. Now, some of them are hot leads, some of those are cold leads, right? But they're dozens by doing things in order to do that. And listen, it also determines what you define a lead is. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to call, all of the loans I ever did, right? Let's say you've been lending for a few years and you've done like 100 loans. Like that is a productive day to spend the time and call them. Don't do a ringless voicemail. Don't do a blanket text or blanket, CC email. Get on the phone and call them. That's how we've had a lot of success recently, has been outbound, being proactive in order to do so. One more quick rant on this one, and we're going to move on to the next one because I think this is important. And this falls, if you've been lending plus 3 or 4 years, over 3 or 4 years, and you have over a $10 million portfolio, this is pretty significant for you. You probably were at a point where you've been doing content regularly, been following up with everybody, and you've been somewhat reliant on your email database to generate more business for you, just like, we do every day, right? We're emailing out. And then at some point, those borrowers, your response rate on your emails decreased. That's because you've been communicating with these real estate investors over and over and over, and they know what your product is. They know what you're going to offer. So they don't necessarily need to reach out to you based on every email that you send out because they know who you are, right? And we have the stigma of like, oh, if I call Jason, he's just going to, quote me a 13% interest rate and make me put down 30 or 40% down. I'm going to go find something better, right? And that's fine. That eventually happens where people know who you are. So your response rate early on is very, very good. But then over time, your response rate on your email campaigns end up going down unless you are doing massive marketing over and over and over and adding new people to that mix, which is one part of this, is you want to add new people to the mix. The second part is make sure instead of just doing emails, make sure you're also proactively calling the people on that email list, right? Because someone might not want to pick up the phone and call you or shoot you an email or fill out a loan application because they've already talked to you in the past, right? So like if I talk to somebody in a year, maybe they talked to you last year. So it's like, oh, I know that if I call Jason, like he's just going to require me 30% down. But if I pick up the phone and I call and get that person on the phone, they're happy to talk to me. And I'll be like, hey, listen, just following up. We got some new products, seeing what type of deals you're working on. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I didn't call you because you were going to tell me to put down 30%. Well, we also do, we also can maybe help you. You have a free and clear property. Maybe we could cross collateralize that and you need zero money into the deal. And then their response is, oh, I didn't know you do refinances. I didn't know you lend on commercial properties. I didn't know you lend on rental properties. I thought you only did fix and flip in this area. I didn't know you lend in Washington, D.C. I thought you only lent in Maryland. So the point is you do what you got to do to get them on the phone. And the tactic of just sending emails and when they're ready to call you, they will. That kind of does work. But as you grow your portfolio, you have to do other initiatives.
Also, I'm going to throw in a metric here just for people to help balance their own top of funnel work and bottom of funnel work. If you've been in this business for a few years, you've done a bunch of deals, you should probably be in the neighborhood of 50% new borrowers every month and 50% repeat.
That's right.
And that's about a good balance, a good mix. And that also tells you that, one, you are doing top of the funnel marketing work to bring in new leads. And on the other side of things, you're maintaining relationships with your existing clients to do repeat business for them. If every month is 50-50, you're doing a good job. If you're way too heavy on one end, like for example, I know lenders that are like, oh yeah, I lend to these 10 or 12 guys. Those are my guys. That's who I lend to. Okay, that's 100% bottom of funnel. Like you're not doing a good job on bringing in new potential leads, because the reality is that people will go somewhere else. Maybe they stop doing residential real estate deals. Maybe they, for a whole lot of reasons. they're going to cycle through at some point. There aren't that many situations where you lend to somebody consistently over a period of 10 years. It's just really rare, right? So
Good
having
point.
that good 50-50 balance each month will tell you that you have a good amount of top of funnel and bottom of funnel focus.
The cycle through is very important. Most
Yeah.
borrowers eventually cycle out of your product.
They don't last forever.
And they either elevate to the next asset class up, multifamily, commercial. You can still be involved in that for them. Or they're getting institutional lines, they're getting bank leverage, they're raising capital themselves, and they don't need to do this. That being said, that's fine. That's a good, if they outgrow you, no problem. At some point, you probably will still do a cleanup deal for them, once or twice a year.
All right, moving on to the next one. It's called Collect What You're Owed. Tell you what I mean by that. Since we work with a lot of lenders in the Mastermind group, we get to communicate with a lot of people about their business, their portfolios, everything that happens in the day-to-day. And I've noticed that not everybody is collecting what their loan docs say, what their note says. And look, there are exceptions. If you want to give a good client a break, that's absolutely a good thing to do. We do it frequently ourselves. But that doesn't mean that everybody qualifies for favors. If somebody consistently pays late after the 5th of the month, they should be charged a late fee, right? It's additional revenue to you, and it discourages them from paying late, right? If somebody is going over the loan term, we almost always write 12-month loans, but I know a lot of people in the audience do 6-month loans, and great, that is cool. There should be extension fees if they're going past 6 months. Whether that's written into your note or it's just a negotiation when it happens, either way is fine, but be wary of the fees that you should be collecting that you might be leaving on the table. And another common one is default interest. In all likelihood, in your note, if somebody goes past 30 days late on a payment, that can trigger default interest. That can be a business decision as well, a judgment call, whether or not you want to charge that to a certain borrower. Maybe you don't. They're just going to be a couple months behind on payments. They're a good client. Cool. By all means, waive that default interest. But I have noticed, again, some people in the Mastermind group, they don't even charge default interest on people who are really in default, which is a mistake. Again, that's supposed to be, if you're not getting paid on time, if you're not getting paid the money when you're supposed to, there should be a bonus later on for you and for your capital investors, right?
And if you don't implement that, what's the point of them paying on time or paying you at all?
Yeah, no, I remember a Baltimore area lender. I think he's retired now, but back in the day, and he did very well in real estate investing and in lending. One time he told us, we were having lunch. I don't know if you remember this, but he's like, I don't even know what my default rate is. I'm sure there's one in the note, and he was an attorney too, which is weird. And he said to us, he was like, I'm sure there's one in the note, but I don't even, I don't collect the default rate. I'll just get my note rate when they pay. It's like,
great.
Okay.
So why would anybody pay you? There's no they're not incentivized to pay you. If think about that. If if you're listening to this, think about this. So let's say you charge a 12% interest rate. Just keep it easy. It's a point a month, right? And you have a $200,000 outstanding loan. And they decide, I don't feel like paying this month. And then some people don't even charge late fees. Okay, well, you still accountable for that $200,000, right? You're paying your fund. You have a capital investor that might need the money. It might be your own personal money that's not earning any interest on this deal. And this person over here is saying, oh, well, there's no repercussions. Why would I make the payment? Right? Or maybe they'll say, okay, I'll pay the late fee. Great, minimal. Whatever, $100, $200. But there's nothing to hold them accountable. You put a default rate in place, and it's a 20, depending on what state you're in. Let's say you can get away with a 24% interest rate, and that payment goes from $2,000 to $4,000 a month. You don't think that person's going to start, doing what they can to make do? That eats up a lot of equity really, really quick.
And the reality is that we all have to perform according to what the note says. We as a lender do, right? And the borrower does as well. And you can't just, on your own mortgage, your own home loan, on your primary residence, if you pay past the date, you're getting charged a late fee. They're not going to be like, well, you're a good bank customer and, we're going to go ahead and waive it, no big deal, right? If you pay past 30 days late, you're getting hit with default interest. There's no conversation. The only thing there is acting and performing according to the loan documents, to the note. So in most cases, you as a private money lender should be behaving in that way too.
Let me add one more real quick thing. Make sure you're charging the terms that are suitable for the amount of risk that you're taking on these deals in your area, right? Most lenders are charging 12, 13%, 3 points, 4 points, maybe, here and there, 2.5 points, whatever the case is. Like, don't undercut what the value that you're bringing to the borrower is and the service on this. I understand there's institutional lenders out there charging 11 and 1 or whatever. It's like, oh, well, I'm not going to get those deals. It's not really comparing apples to apples with institutional lenders. The goal here is the economics of this business. It's not just doing deals. This is an investment vehicle. You want to lend out money. The lenders that have been in business long enough and have seen defaults and see that there's actual real risk in this business, because there is a lot of risk in this business. You can eliminate risk by doing safe deals and charging them the right amount on your terms, but you got to make sure you're charging kind of what you're worth on some of these things. And it's typically 12, 13, 14%, 3, 4, 5 points. Obviously, if there's a commercial user in your state, you want to stay under that, but that's what it is. If not, what's the point? I mean, keep in mind, the money's still taxed as interest income, same tax rate as ordinary income. So, if you're charging like 10% and you're in a high tax bracket, you're getting like half of that. You can get half of that in something way less risky and may not have even any tax, there's other investment vehicles that might even be tax-free by doing that. So make sure you're doing this for the right reasons, not just ego of just, I got to do as many deals. Like, be as profitable as you can, because there's real risk. And, if you're not, even if you do very, very good deals for a long period of time, there's still going to be a time that something happens that, this investment might go sideways. So charge the right amount.
Okay. And the third way to increase revenue this year is to be opportunistic. You don't just have to be a rehab lender or fix and flip, whatever you like to call it. A residential rehab lender, we do a lot of that. A lot of people in the group, that's the focus. That's our focus, sort of. It's a good portion of the portfolio, but we are aware that since we control private capital, our own capital and investors' money, there's other stuff we can do with that in the real estate world. We can do acquisition loans. We can do commercial properties in a couple different ways. We can even do a refinance on a residential investment property. That might be news to some people. Some people might pass and say they only do purchases. They don't do refis. We've heard that before. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the reality is that we can be opportunistic and make money doing all of those things I just mentioned. Yeah,
I agree. And listen, you might have to adjust underwriting. Obviously, there's an argument that it's more risky to do a cash out refinance than a fix and flip purchase. I agree with that. We lower LTV on that, right? If a borrower owns a property worth $200,000 and they own it free and clear and they need $100,000 for other investment purposes, let's say they're not putting the money into this deal, but they're using it, to buy another property, and they need a down payment to buy another real estate property or injecting in their business. And it's a true investment business transaction. Like, there's still more risk of giving them $100,000 that you don't fully have control. You also don't have full control of what their exit strategy is going to be. There's more risk in borrowers that do, the Burr model as well, because their exit is a refinance that you don't have as much control of. Obviously, you're going to pull their credit. You're going to look at their financials to make sure they have the ability to do so after the fact, but you can't control if that's going to actually happen or not. So there is certainly more risk in some of those things. The point is you have to be opportunistic. Going back to what Chris just said earlier about some of the members of the group, have told us, well, they're not doing refinances. It's like, well, why aren't you doing the refinance? They're like, I don't know. I just figured, there's more risk. It's like, okay, well, let's look at a real life example here. Like, everybody thinks they have to lend up to max LTV, or they have to follow these made up metrics or requirements. You want to do a 10% LTV loan, you do a 10% LTV loan if that's what you're comfortable with. Are you going to get, hundreds and hundreds of them in a month? No. But are you going to get some? Yes, if you market for them. So you figure out what you're comfortable with. But I was talking to a lender in Mastermind group, and I was like, so you haven't done any refis? And he has a big, decent sized portfolio. And I was like, what if I came to you and I had a property worth $400,000 that I paid cash for? Not that like I bought for $100,000 that appreciated to $400,000 over the last, since the market's been good. Like I paid $400,000 cash for it, and now all of a sudden I had tenants in there, and the tenants moved out, and I need to spend $100,000 to re-renovate it because they messed it up, and I don't want to use my own cash. Would you give me $100,000 on that deal if I had good credit and I knew what I was doing and I had a viable exit strategy? They're like, yeah, of course, it's a no-brainer. Okay, well, you do lend on cash out refinances then. Like you just don't think about it that way. So just like Chris said, there's bridge loans on residential properties. There's bridge loans on commercial properties. I get if you're not comfortable lending on commercial assets. I do get that part. And I wouldn't recommend people start lending on commercial assets until they feel comfortable with that. Because it took us years and years to get comfortable with commercial assets because we had never owned any and we never lent on them when we were in the mortgage business. Years and years ago, we never did commercial lending. We only did residential lending. And we passed on a pretty interesting commercial deal like early on. Like one of the first deals we looked at was like a home run, but we didn't know it was a home run at the time. And these other lenders were like, what are you doing? That deal's a home run. But like we learned, we weren't comfortable with it. And guess what happens when you're not comfortable with something? Hopefully you become conservative. Well, number one, you learn about it, then you become conservative. Now we're very comfortable with underwriting commercial assets. So we lend.
Yeah, but mind you, like even our comfort level doing loans on commercial properties, many of them for years now, we're still conservative with what we do.
Yeah.
In terms of like we're max 50 loan to value.
Yeah.
Oftentimes less. And that's after all these years of underwriting commercial properties, acquisitions, bridge loans, income properties, vacant, like still, even with all that being the case, we don't have to crank out like 70, 75 loan to value commercial loans to the tune of 10 million a month. Like that is not our business. We don't need to. Mind you, part of being opportunistic is some of these deals pay really well. They could pay better than your normal $250K fix and flip. Keep in mind that a $200K loan and a $500K loan is for the most part the same amount of work. That can vary a little bit, resi versus commercial, but $1 million resi loan and a $100K resi loan is the same process. So looking for some larger loan amounts, as long as you're not getting outside of your comfort zone or doing property types that you're not into, like Jason was saying before, like you can always just quote with what you're comfortable. Like I quoted a multifamily acquisition loan in Chicago, and we don't lend in Chicago. So, I mean, it just goes to show you, like I took a look at it. I talked to the broker. I know the area well enough, so I knew it was in a good part of Chicagoland, and I quoted 50 loan to cost. And if they were cool with that, then we were going to dig in. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. It wasn't too long ago, and the borrower is like, no, I can definitely get higher leverage on that. And I'm like, cool, no problem. But the point is, quote your game, what you're comfortable with, and go from there. As long as you have more leads coming in today, you're going to have the confidence to quote deals that you're comfortable with, and that is being opportunistic in private lending.
Let me add one more point to that, because there might be some naysayers like, oh, I'm not going to quote something that I can't do. And it's like, you're not committing to do it. All you're doing is having a verbal conversation with the borrower or the broker and say, hey, listen, like I'll use this exact conversation because this comes up every day and I do it every day. And I have for the last 19 years of my life at Hard Money Bankers. Say, hey, listen, to be honest with you, we've never lent in Chicago before. And I don't know if we can even do this deal. If we were able to come up with like a 50 LTV loan, right? I don't know what these numbers were, but let's say they're buying it for $600,000. If we were able to lend like 300, would they be in a position, or are you in a position to put up the additional 300? If so, it might be worth us considering. And then their response is either be like, nah, I can find a 75% LTV lender, or yeah, I got $300,000. It's a little bit more than I want to put up, but I think I can make that work. No problem. Let me see what I can do, and I'll circle back with you. Right? That's it. Nobody is upset with you. Like I feel like lenders think people are going to get upset with them and like scream at them if they tell them something. We didn't commit to that deal. Like we just said, hey, I don't lend in this area. But if we can, but maybe we would consider it at these numbers. Is that something you can work with? And if so, dig in. I do that every day on every transaction. That is part of the script, is having a verbal conversation with the borrower first. This might be the most important part of the podcast. So hopefully everybody's listening towards the end of this, because it really could be. Like, this is a game changer for so many people. And I just don't know why not everyone's using it. But every single conversation, I don't fully know if this is how much I can do or not. But if so, is this something you can make work? Something along those lines on every transaction. Nobody's going to get mad at you for saying that. Like, I don't know if I can do this or not. This is approximately where I think we would come in at. Is this something you can make work? Start with that. It's a very easy way to do it, but you have to do it verbally. Obviously, you can't do it over email. They'll never respond to you.
All right, everybody, that is the pod for today. Hopefully these 3 keys will help you make more money in the private lending business this year. Also, if you haven't done so already, come join us. Come join us at hardmoneymastermind.com. Check out the trainings, the tools, join the conversation. We hope to see you in there, and we'll catch you next time on the Private Lenders Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.